So the Zenless Zone Zero patch 1.4 livestream just ended, and in it they went over all the cool new things that we can expect when the update arrives on December 18th. Now whether you missed it or you don't have time to rewatch it, I'll give you a quick rundown on everything that was covered in the stream. First things first though, the freebies that I'm sure you're all waiting for, that is the redemption code VOIDHUNTER. So make sure you redeem this quickly as it only lasts a day, but there is also a Twitter event where you could win 10 master tapes. As usual, all you have to do is follow the Twitter account and quote the tweet in the description down below, along with the associated hashtags. But now though, onto the main story, and specifically what is probably going to be the biggest story point of the game so far. The developers even mentioned that they're seeing 1.4 as a sort of soft reboot or a relaunch of the game. That is how much effort that they've been putting into this patch. And rightfully so. In the story, this is going to be the culmination of everything. They are saying that this is the climax of Season 1 supposedly. And it does seem like that. In the trailer, we see everyone is here, like an Avengers style moment. Not just Section 6, but we also have Bellabog, Cunning Hares, Victoria Housekeeping, the Criminal Investigation Team. Everyone is here for this climax. So I hope everyone is looking forward to that big story point there. As for some other points, we will also get some background on the two new agents, which are going to be Harumasa and Miyabi. Miyabi, we will have a short little animation to see what she was like as a kid, because she is indeed the descendant of the Voidhunter that was seen in the initial lore trailer, the Swordmaster at the time. And as for Harumasa, he will also have his own agent story where we will see his background and see what he's really like behind that whole lazy facade that he puts up. Speaking of Harumasa and Miyabi, let's give a quick rundown of what they do. As for Miyabi, she is an S-rank Frost agent. That is the name of the element that she is. It's an element specifically unique to her. And the way it works is that when Miyabi attacks enemies, she can apply the Ice Fire effect to targets. And then when you attack an enemy with Ice Fire, it builds up the Frost Anomaly gauge. Now, when that Frost Anomaly gauge is filled, it triggers a special, I quote, freeze, shatter, and frostbite effect. So it's literally just the ice anomaly with some extra stuff on top of it. Now, when you apply frostbite, which is the new thing on top of it, you trigger a frostburn break, which deals massive frost damage to the target and also causes the enemy to go into the frostburn stage. When the enemy is in this frostburn state, it causes all members to do more anomaly buildup against them. Now, when you trigger this frostburn break, Miyabi also gets fallen frost points, which are there below her health bar. Another way she can generate the frost points is when she uses her EX special attack to dash to enemies. If she has enough energy, she will also do a return follow-up slash, which generates some points. Now, how do you spend those points? Well, when you hold your basic attack, she will sheath her sword and then do a dash and like 1,000 cuts. Yes, she is the Virgil character, and she does damage based on the amount of points consumed. What's more though is that when a support agent or somebody from the same faction, so Section 6, is on the team, she will also gain Fallen Frost whenever a disorder is procced. So her gameplay loop is basically apply her frost element onto the enemy, get them into frostburn break, and then once they are in that frostburn break status, since the anomaly is increased, you switch to the other agents to trigger disorders, and then you switch back to Miyabi and then you dump all of those fallen frost charges to do a huge amount of damage. Now moving over onto Harumasa, the S-rank electric unit, he uses both a bow and blades to attack, which again is sort of like Tartaglia or Child from Genshin Impact. And then his EX special launches daggers out ahead that deal damage and make electro quivers. And then while these quivers are out, you can have them seek out enemies, applying a marked status on them. After this, Harumasa can go into an awakened state where he can dash around and deal a huge amount of damage through his powerful attacks. As an attacker, Harumasa's gameplay loop is pretty standard. You use other members to stun the enemy, then you have him switch in, throw out all of his electro quivers and his different types of traps, and then close in to deal out a ton of damage with his blades. Now as for their banners, both of their banners will be live right as the update drops on the 18th of December, and they will last for the entire duration of the patch. 2 banners at once. But what's more is that as a thank you from the developers for supporting them throughout this time, up until patch 1.4, they are handing out a free Harumasa as well as some upgrade materials to get him up to level 40. Yes, you heard me correct, a free Harumasa. And then because the banners last the entire length of the patch, that gives you even more time to try and farm up some polychromes to roll for either of the 2 agents. But again, as usual, forget about agents, we're here to talk about bang boos, of which there are 2. Agent Gulliver is the Section 6 bang boo that we saw in the 1.3 story. He's the one that does the whole, bang boos, open up, and then crashes through the door. And then the other bang boo that we will get is Brawler Boo, who loves to just jump into the air and do a flurry of punches and smackdowns. Now, as we speculated here, with 1.4, there is also going to be new Notorious Hunt and Expert Challenge enemies, which will of course drop the materials needed for Harumasa and Miyabi. But aside from that, there will also be a new routine cleanup stage, which will have 2 new disc sets. The first is Branch and Blade Song. The 2-piece set will offer 16% crit damage, and the 4-piece set increases the crit damage by another 30% if your Anomaly Mastery is over 115 points. And then what's more is that when any squad member applies freeze or triggers a shatter effect on an enemy, the wearer's crit rate increases by 12%. So crit damage and crit rate. Perfect for Miyabi. I mean, it even has like Miyabi's little ghost thing on the disc itself. And then as for the other one, Astral Voice, this gives 10% for the 2-piece set. And then for the 4-piece set, whenever a squad member uses a quick assist to enter the field, all squad members gain a stack of Astral, up to 3 times. And for each stack of Astral, it increases the damage dealt by the character entering the field using the quick assist by 8%. So in other words, a total of 24%. What I will note though, is that it's very interesting that Branch and Blade is very much heavily a Miyabi type of disc set. I mean, like I said, it has her little image on it as well. Astral Voice does not look like a Harumasa set. However, that white and red theme, as well as the name Astral, kind of like Astra, might indicate that Astra Yao might be coming sometime soon, and she might be focused on quick assists by the looks of things. But I mean, hey, that's just speculation for now. Now though, moving over to the other new gameplay elements in 1.4, there are a lot, so buckle up. The first of which is going to be a new event where we can explore a holo called Into That Pale Wasteland, where we will help Section 6 explore a whole new holo that comes straight out of Nier Automata or something, where we can like manipulate the scenery and our perspective to try and find the correct path forward. Notably though, this is also going to provide us with a new W engine, or Wengen if you will. No details are out yet on what exactly this engine is, but I'm sure it will be great. Next up is a new crisis over in Scott Outpost, and that is because Rei has gone missing. So we're gonna go out to save her. A short summary is that this is effectively speaking simulated universe like in Honkai Star Rail, where now not only do we get the Resonium to give us certain buffs, but also now we will have special little items and trinkets that modify our gameplay. But the big thing is that if you find Ophelia, she can give you special gear that doesn't just change, some gameplay aspects, it literally changes how your agents attack, giving them alternate skills essentially. It is through this new mode that we will also be able to get that new Bang Boo, the Brawler Boo, and also we can get Victoria housekeeping coupons to get some lucky drops. Another nice thing about this mode, which is kind of annoying because I've already done this already, but now if you have any lower level agents that you are dying to test out, you can use them in this mode and temporarily increase their levels, so you don't actually have to commit to them, but you can try them out at a higher level and see how they play. Next up is some new challenging content out there, which is going to be the Deadly Assault high-risk training system over in the HIA. This will involve 3 powerful boss enemies that will rotate every other week, and these boss stages will have special ether effects that will hopefully spice up some of the combat. Now you can take on these 3 bosses, but the catch is that you cannot use the same agents twice in a row. So effectively speaking, you will need 9 different agents and 3 Bang Boos if you want to take on all 3 of these enemies. But the good news is you don't really have to, as the way this mode works is that you will get a score for each boss based on the amount of damage you do, as well as any sort of specific mechanics that you perform. For example, you might be rewarded for stunning the enemy or performing certain disorders or interrupting their attacks and stuff like that. And then depending on the score, you will earn stars, up to a maximum of 3 stars per boss. However, you only need 6 stars out of a total 9 to get all of the rewards. So in theory, similar to Shiyu Defense, if you only have 2 really good teams, then you don't need to worry about the 3rd boss, and you can still claim all of these rewards. And then since this is going to be on a seasonal basis, this means that effectively speaking, with this as well as Shiyu Defense, there will be a new reset of content every single week. Speaking of Shiyu Defense, there's also going to be a nice quality of life adjustment which is going to allow you to sweep those first 3 stages automatically and get S rank clears for them if you S rank them in the previous cycle. And considering those are essentially the 50, 55 and level 60 stages, I think it'd be pretty easy to assume that you would have been able to S rank them anyway if you were able to S rank the previous stages. As for some of the other events that we can expect in 1.4, there will be a fan support campaign for Section 6 where we can answer some quizzes about them to earn some rewards. There's also going to be a combat footage review, which is essentially going to be the puzzle event from the newsstand, but just redone again. There's also going to be a collab designer event, which will have a bingo style thing going on, similar to our weeklies right now. And then of course we will have the typical double drops events every now and then. Now arguably the thing I am most excited for about this patch is some new Bang Boo stuff. The first of which is that now, in story mode and some other places in the game, instead of having to run around in TVs, that is basically going to be replaced by running around as the actual EOS himself. Like, I don't want to say Fall Guys, but it's basically Fall Guys, or some Mario 64 style platforming. And that's not the only little Bang Boo gameplay that we can have. because there's also going to be a Bamboo versus Ethereal event where we can deploy Bamboos in a tower defense mode to stop Ethereals from swarming our base. Yes, if you're thinking it's just like Arknights, then you're absolutely correct. Once again, the developers are working hard not just on events, but also optimizations and gameplay stuff. So aside from, again, the inclusion of us being able to run around as Bamboos, some other optimizations are making the main story easier to go through, and that is going to be done by 1. Lowering the internet level requirements to complete some story chapters, again, very much geared towards any new players that are coming by, as if it was a soft reboot of the game, introducing those EOS gameplay sections to, spice things up a bit, adding a journey system for each chapter to help you understand the progress of the story and what's going on, and then some other nice additions are for character upgrades. So when you select a character, you can now make a plan to help you track what you need to reach certain targets, and easily allow you to teleport to the stages required for those materials. What's more is that you can also copy and share plans from other players, so effectively bankrupting the YouTube content creator agent guide ecosystem, because now you can just look these up in game. But once you do have your agents upgraded, there is now also a combat readiness function to check the priority of what to upgrade by having the game score your agent based on how strong they are in certain aspects, such as skills, their engines or their drive disks and stuff like that. And then of course, as mentioned before in 1.4, we will now have the ability to switch to any agent that we want for exploration, as long as you own them of course. But what's more is that at trust level 2 and beyond, you can now spend quality time with your agents that you have unlocked. You can now invite them out and roam around New Eridu with those agents. You can maybe take them sightseeing, or take them to the arcade and have some games with them there. Or you can have them pose for photos, or just whatever you want. You can go on a date with them and do whatever. What's interesting is that they also mentioned that the devs are looking into adding more stores in the future to let us experience more options with how to spend quality time with our agents. And a big thing for you mobile players out there is that there is an update to free up space by deleting certain aspects of the game that you may not need anymore. For example, old story chapters. I think this is a great addition because obviously as the game goes on and on, the file size will only get bigger and bigger. So doing this will help you keep the game modular, and if for whatever reason you do want to go back and re-experience those things, you can always re-download them at a later stage. And then one of the biggest gameplay changes is going to be the decibel changes. So this means that decibels are no longer shared across the entire team, but instead they accumulate individually for each agent. But similar to energy, the other off-field agents are still able to generate some points even when they aren't actively on the field. The rate at which these off-field agents generate these points we don't know yet, but the devs have assured us that it shouldn't affect the original squad-based combat that we have all come to love. As mentioned, the devs see 1.4 as a sort of fresh start for the game. And so despite the game being 6 months old already, there is a pre-registration event going on right now where you can scan the QR code to pre-register for 1.4 essentially, and doing so will get you 160 polychromes, but also, depending on the amount of pre-registrations, we can also earn some rewards like some level up bundles. Again, these are the type of things you only get when a game initially launches. But as usual, why not tell a friend to start playing as well? Now would probably be one of the best times ever. A free S-rank agent, the two banners lasting a full patch, giving them more time to try and scrounge up some rolls for them, the story coming to a complete conclusion, so you're not left on a cliffhanger. And to emphasize this, there is once again going to be a return to redo event, where you can invite your fellow friends to start playing the game, and in doing so, you have a chance to win a PS5, a Nicole figure, or some other goodies. Some other neat announcements that weren't really tied to the in-game stuff itself, but Zenless Zone Zero as a whole, is that there is going to be an original soundtrack album being released featuring songs from Zenless Zone Zero, including of course Harumasa and Miyabi's EPs. And then also a ZZZ Hub, of course I had to call it a hub, official merch pop-up tour. Now we don't know what exactly some of the merch will look like just yet, but knowing the aesthetics of Zenless Zone Zero, I'm sure that it will look really, really good. Otherwise though, that is it for 1.4. I say that is it. It's a lot. Miyabi and Harumasa look great. Harumasa is free. They're both gonna have a 1 patch long banner. The story is gonna reach its climax. There's some new Bamboo gameplay modes, and there's tons of new gameplay events. All of this and more in patch 1.4, which starts on December 18th. Thank you all for watching. If you found this video helpful, liking, commenting, and subscribing is greatly appreciated. In fact, let me ask you now, what are you most excited for in 1.4 out of the things listed here? I myself, I just want to see what happens in the story. I want to see that Avengers moment of everyone showing up against a common enemy. But otherwise though, until next time, bye bye.